Hi there. You must be wondering where I am. This is our office, and I've been doing a lot of videoing today. So I've done 5 hours of videoing during the daytime in my greenhouse, and as if that was not enough, it's now 7 o'clock in the evening, and before I have my dinner, I thought I'd use the opportunity to come here into the office when all the staff have gone, and I can work in the warm and do a few projects. February is a very busy time of the year, so there's a lot to do. So there are endless videos that I've made, and you're going to see it over the next few weeks or months. Let me begin by saying a big thank you to some of my fans. Now, this is a beautiful Hawaiian shirt, and it's a French Connection, which is a very, very posh brand. And it was sent to me by someone in the UK. In fact, he was also a civil servant like what I was. And he sent it because he was very grateful to see all the videos that I keep putting out. I'm not saying this is a plug to ask for shirts, but there is so much love in the community that I have to acknowledge it. And then shortly after that, within the next day, I had another lovely present. And this present is from a German fan, all the way from Germany. Such beautiful writing. Look at it, beautiful handwriting. And he sent me a lovely Felco secateurs, because he knows that I love the Felco. And there's a little woolly hat to go with it as well. So thank you very much to all my fans for showing so much love. I really enjoy making the videos. And if it was not for you fans, I would not be doing it at all. So what have I got for you today? This was a group that I may have shown you before, and I touched on it very briefly when I was looking at some of the other conifers that were in my care. It belongs to a customer, but this famous group was made by John Naka when he came to the UK. I think it was 1984 or 86 on his second visit. He went to Scotland and he made this group there. I'm just going to pause the camera for a while because I'm going to bring some of my books to show you the picture of this tree when it was originally done. So bear with me for a second while I just go and find the book. So I have 2 of my books here. And I'm sure those of you who are familiar with my books will recognize this one. Bonsai Masterclass was published in 1987, and I wrote it in 1986, which is 35 years ago, maybe going on 36. And that is my favorite book. It is also in Bonsai Secrets. This is the French version of Bonsai Secrets. I can show you the English version, but this is the French version because all my books are in 7 or 8 languages. Let's get to Bonsai Masterclass first. And if I open the page 24 of Bonsai Masterclass, this photograph was taken when I came to Herons in 1986. And you can see that group there. That was the group in 1986 when I had just acquired it. So this is what it looks like today. I'm going to work on it. And this was what the group looked like in 1986. Further on in the book, there's another picture. Let me just show you. And this is the picture of that group, forest and group plantings. So this is how it looked. And as you all know, because trees keep growing, as they grow, they change considerably. Nothing ever remains the same. It's like us human beings. As we age and as time goes by, our looks change, and so do bonsai. All these bonsai change. I would say that this tree has grown about at least another maybe 20 to 30 centimeters taller, and the trees have thickened much more. So this, if it was made in 1984 or 86, it was made as a group nearly 37 years ago. So the trees because they were already that size 37 years ago. I would say these trees must be at least 50 years old now. So you can see 50 years old, some of them are still very, very thin. So when you say that trees, you can't tell the age, the thickness of the trunk is no indication as to how old they are. Now let me go to the other book, because in Bonsai Secrets there's also a picture of it. Now these pictures are quite different. This picture, because the book was written in it was written in year 2001. I remember writing this book when the famous Twin Towers incident took place, and already the group is looking quite different from what it did when it was first made. If I can open that picture again, if you compare the two, look at that one. That was when it was just made in 1984 or 86, and this was it in the year 2000. So already the shape of the tree had changed quite a bit. This picture here is before I trimmed it, and this was when I had given it a slight trim. So I keep maintaining this tree, but because this tree was sold to a keen collector, he has somewhat neglected the tree. I don't like pestering them to keep working on it, because it costs money to keep spending hours and hours. This tree has been on the nursery for the past 6 months because I wanted to bring it back to health. So it's already looking much greener, much healthier, as you can see. All the foliage is looking very nice, but there's quite a lot of dead in it, and 1 or 2 dead trees as well. So we will deal with all of them. So at the moment, I can see there are 2 dead trees and 3, maybe 2 dead trees. So that will leave 4, and 3, 7, and 3, 10. Maybe 9 trees could be left. So originally the tree had 3 to 5, 5 and 3, 8, 8, and 8 and 4, 12. I think it had 13 trees, if I remember correctly. There were 12 trees, so even John Naka made a group of 12 trees. So, when you think that you should always have the odd number, here there are 12 trees in this group originally. So I will start working on it. The first thing I will do, because I've got the camera in my hand, I will show you there's quite a lot of debris here, a lot of dead twigs. So the first thing to do is to clear the debris. Nothing special. So this is going to take time, and I'm just going to show you a little bit of me cutting the debris out. It's not often that I work from behind the tree. I always work from the front. I know it's annoying for some of my viewers because they always see my back, but that is what I see, and hopefully that is also what you see. So I don't think it's that silly to be working from the front all the time. So let's see what happens. So all I'm going to do is remove these dead twigs. Twigs die because of lack of light, also maybe not enough feed or fertilizer. So this is going to be a tedious process, just removing the dead twigs. They serve no purpose now, so they have to be removed. I'm just going to show you a little bit of this. I don't want to do too much because there will be a lot to do, and I don't want to just spend time showing you how to remove dead twigs. When these trees are made, the pads are usually very flat, but over a period of time the pads get big and they spring upwards. So that's why they look so dense. So as I say, all I'm doing now is simply removing dead twigs. And there are, as I said, certainly 2 trees which are completely dead. This one is completely dead. I just cut it from the root. When you plant forest groups, you will always get the odd tree that dies, because when you plant a group, there are some trees which are very vigorous, and the vigorous ones take over, and they don't let the little ones grow. So you notice here that these little ones have died because the big ones have become too vigorous, and they've taken all the nourishment from it. There are two more which are struggling to live. I won't take them out because with a bit of heavy feeding, I may be able to revive them. Usually when customers send these trees to me, I insist on keeping it with me for at least a year, because they need at least a year to revive. There's no good me working on it and send it straight back, because if I do that, all the good work that I have done will come to nothing if they don't look after it again. So I want to make sure it really revives and picks up. The fact that it's reviving and doing so strongly, I will just bring the camera close. You will see that some of the shoots are really, really strong. You look at those pointy bits, you see that is a sign of strong growth. So keeping it just for 3 months has produced so many new strong shoots, and the color certainly has picked up. This variety of juniper, although it's a Chinese juniper, it was made from the famous Bloor's juniper. Those of you who are in Europe may have heard about Bloor's. It is a very easily available, or certainly in the 60s, 70s and 80s, it was a very popular conifer, juniper, that was sold for conifer growers. And there used to be a lot of people who grew these dwarf alpines and conifers, and Bloor's was one of the varieties which were a favorite among conifer collectors. But nowadays you will not be able to get Bloor's for the love of money, because it has suddenly become rare, and simply because no one is interested in growing conifers anymore. Changes of fashion, whims of fashion, and you get this situation where a plant which may have been popular 20, 30 years ago, you suddenly cannot get it anymore. Fortunately, we propagate quite a few Bloor's ourselves from cuttings, so we do have Bloor's junipers for sale. Those of you who watch some of my YouTube videos will have seen the Bloor's that I use, and although they have that funny vase shape, inverse V, when they are wired up, they become very nice bonsai. So I will now not bore you by doing more cleaning up. Let me clean the tree completely, and then I will show you what I have done during the next hour. Right, I think I better show you what I've been doing. I have removed quite a few dead branches. I will show you closer in a minute what has been happening. Look at all those dead branches coming out. In just a space of a few minutes, I've taken out quite a few dead branches. Now there are some other branches which don't have a lot of foliage. They are not dead, but look at this one. This hasn't got a lot of foliage left. And this one also I had removed. It wasn't completely dead. I've made a bit of gin there. So these ones, because they're not looking so good, I may just keep it and see if it does revive, but I'm going to wire these so that these branches come down. So if they come down, they will take the place of these branches. So like this one, for instance, I'm going to cut it off and make a gin with it. So even in nature, as trees get older, they do break off with the storms, and nature blows them down and breaks them, weight of snow or whatever. So getting gins in these trees is not unnatural. By the way, although these are junipers, what we've used the juniper here is to create an image of the pine. See, now these branches are springing up, so I will now just make a gin with this one. I'll just show you what I do. I cut them off. Look what I'm cutting off. And then I make a sloping cut there, and then tear the branch backwards. Tear it back like that to make the gin. So as I was saying, these junipers are used here to create the image of pine trees. So this is really like a pine forest that the late John Naka has made when making this group. So junipers are very popular for creating what we would call pine image. So now that I've removed these 3 lower branches, I'm going to wire the branches down like that, and that will fill the space. So this is the general plan for most of these branches. So I'm lifting the crown, as it were, getting rid of 1, 2, 3 quite major branches, but they're not much good now. So I've removed those and I'm going to wire these down. So I will continue taking the dead ones or the useless ones out. There's a lot of dead there. Each tree is going to take me at least an hour to work on. So you can imagine this is going to take about 8-10 hours of work. So I'll be spending quite a few evenings just working on this. I know that I don't charge the customer enough for it because the amount of work I've done on this tree, if I was going to charge my normal time, would be astronomical because I love what I'm doing. The monetary value doesn't really come into it. So this is what I've shown you, and when I've done some wiring and proceeded to accomplish a little more, I will show it to you again. So this is where we've got to so far. Well, I just show you what I've done. I've worked about 1 hour and look at the debris I've taken out. And I'm sure I'm going to be taking out about 10 times the amount of debris from this group. If we look at this tall tree, the tall tree in this case is the principal tree and it's on the left. This is a very strange group because the group consists of 2 little subgroups, one group on the left and one group on the right. So if we look at this main tree on the left hand side, I will just show you what I have done so far. And simply by pruning some of these dead branches out, you can see that the form of that left hand side tree is beginning to appear. I'm going to work much more on that left hand tree just to show you the difference between working on a tree and not working on a tree. See, this side has not been touched yet, the right hand side, so it's very dense. So just by thinning out the branches, it begins to look like a magnificent big tree once more. So I'm just going to do some wiring. I haven't done any wiring so far. I will begin to do some wiring. So I'm going to do a bit of wiring now just to show you the general idea as to what I'm trying to achieve. So I'm now using, this is 4mm wire, might even be 4.5, I think. So I'm going to wire these 2 branches out. When you think that this tree was worked on 1984, 37 years ago by the great John Naka, who is now up in the clouds. What a great honor it is to touch this tree. I did a workshop with John Naka as well. Those of you who have got my first book, you see a drawing he did of that particular tree. I still have it. I need to redesign it because all these trees, as they age, they change in shape, they change in style, and they have to be rejuvenated from time to time. So no tree ever stays the same throughout its bonsai career. It's like human beings, we have to reinvent ourselves. So this is coming down. Because I lost the lower branches, that's the reason why I'm bending the branches down. These branches have been lost, so I'm taking it down so that it fills the space. And also it's quite appropriate because as trees get old, the branches hang down because of the weight of the branches. So in nature you find this phenomenon taking place. Branches hanging down, absolutely natural. There's so many dead little twigs. The more you look, the more you find. A lot of work involved. I must say I'm going to enjoy this very much. I'm going to keep this tree for quite a while because I really want to resuscitate it to its former glory or taking a new shape. I'm sure that dear Master John Naka will approve of what I'm doing. Because I'm self-videoing, I feel that although I'm talking to myself, I know that I'm not alone because the response I get from my viewers makes me feel that you are just next to me. So it's a weird feeling, but so nice, a lovely feeling. That although I'm working on my own and talking to myself, I'm not really talking to myself, I'm talking to you. And I hope you feel that too. So I've done this, I keep going on there, I've got to do the crown. Now that is a big branch, it's hiding the tree at the back. So I might have to take that one out or certainly shorten it very considerably. So let me just show you what I mean. If you can look at this one here, this branch here is hiding the tree at the back. So I'm going to shorten it by cutting it there. So I'm going to take that out. All that comes out. So that this tree is exposed and this comes down. So I've thinned that quite considerably. So the whole tree is going to be thinned. The whole group, every tree is going to be thinned out. So you'll appreciate it when I've done all of it. So that's what I'll do so far. That's 15 minutes gone just on a couple of branches. Right, I've worked on this tree for about 2.5 hours and it's nearly 11 o'clock at night and I'm still working. I thought I'd stop by and show you what I've done so far. Let me just show you the debris that is on the table here. Can you see what a lot of stuff I cut out? All that has been cut out, mainly from the lower branches here. I'm going to make those into gins. I bared the trunk because it was very dense. If you have a quick comparison between the right hand side, as you can see it's absolutely heavy and dense, and on the left hand side this tree, the main tree, is beginning to take shape and it really looks like a pine. I've done these lower branches here. I haven't finished the top yet. The top I'm going to thin a little more and wire the branches down. Also this big lump at the back, that is very heavy. That I'm going to thin. So I'm going to work on the left hand side first. I thought I'd show you part of the way through in case you think I'm doing sleight of hand. I'm not doing sleight of hand. It's just that I didn't want to take up about 5, 6, 7 hours just to show you this one project. I will just show you snatches of it. So I'm going to work on the apex of that principal tree and then you will see the effect. So you can already see a contrast between left and the right. The right is absolutely heavy and dense, whereas the left hand side is getting more like proper trees that you would see growing in the wild or in a pine forest. So there we go. I hope you are enjoying what is being transformed. So I thought I'd show you what I've done in the last 15 minutes. I'm coming back to this tree, and now that central tree or the main tree on the left, that has been completed. I would say it's complete, and it's much thinner than it was originally. And that's only one tree done. I'm now going to work on the tree right at the back. I haven't touched any of these trees on the right hand side. This tree at the back here, you can see how dense it is, this one. I'm now going to work on this one and then gradually progress. So I've only done one of the, how many trees are there? 3, 3, 6 and 4, 10 trees. I've only done one of 10 and that's taken me the best part of about 3 hours so far. 3 hours I've worked on it, just one tree. So this group is going to take a lot of time to work on. But it's coming along. You can see the results. So I've been working virtually non-stop from 5 o'clock in the evening till 11:30. It's nearly 11:30. And to show you I'm not lying, I'm going to show you the clock, almost 11:30. And that is the clock there, 11:20. So I've been working for 6¼ hours, 6 hours, 20 minutes to be absolutely precise. And I've only done just about half the group of this famous John Naka forest or group. So you can see the difference between the left-hand side and the right-hand side. The right-hand side I haven't worked yet. So that has yet to be done. So I've introduced spaces between the branches, and this in fact is how you would see pines growing in the British countryside. A lot of the pine forests are like that, and this is the image I'm trying to recreate. Now on the right hand side there is a very big problem here. There's this big branch which is quite low down. I'm not sure whether to take it off or to leave it. And I will probably take it off because I can bring some of the branches from the crown to hang downwards. It's more important to show the trunks of the trees. As with all forest groups, unless you show the trunks, you don't really get a feel for what a real forest would look like. So you see now the difference between the left-hand side and the right-hand side. And I'm now going to proceed. Maybe tomorrow, it's too late now, I haven't had my dinner yet, and I'm going to work on the right-hand side tomorrow evening. And hopefully in 2 evenings, which is about 12 or 14 hours work, I reckon, I will have thinned the tree out, and then I will put it back in probably a larger pot, and it will be more or less restored to not its former glory, but a different shape. So this shape has evolved over the last 1984, 37 years. This group has existed for 37 years. So you will see the transformation. Isn't it nice to know that this tree, bonsai, lived longer than people? There you go. So this is halfway done, and this is halfway point. So I'm here again. You can see me hiding behind the trees. Last night I worked from 5 o'clock in the evening till 11:20 last night, 6 hours 20 minutes with just a few coffee breaks, and I didn't have my dinner till 12 midnight. So this has proved to be such an exciting project that I couldn't stop doing it. So you can see that on the left hand side I've finished the left hand side. I've tidied it up, and now I'm going to deal with the trees on the other side, the right-hand side. So this is still quite a jumble and a mess, and the whole object is to thin it out so that I can show the branches so they look like trees. I hope you will agree that the trees on the left-hand side of the picture, they look like real pine trees that you would find growing in a pine forest. But this is a bit of a jumble, so let's deal with it. So it's just a question of patience, and there's no great problem. And I like to deal with one tree at a time. Difficult to work from the back, as I said, so I will have to find some means of accessing the tree this way. I don't know whether you can see what I'm doing. I'll try and show you as I go along. See, the tree I'm working on is the one on the far left of the picture. So it's this tree that I'm going to work on, this tree. So let's see if I can video it with me working on it. As I mentioned to you, a lot of these branches have grown upwards, so the flat pad effect is no longer visible. So the first thing I always do is There is so much dead because this poor tree has been there's a lot of fine detail work. I think the best analogy is like a jeweler, you know, a jeweler dealing with a lot of fine detail. Even cleaning the debris takes time. All these dead little stubs, every one of them has to be taken out carefully with the branch pruner. So I'm pruning close to the original branch or trunk. Anything dead I take out, and this will be wired flat. And because it's such an old group, I'm very conscious that many of these old branches are going to end up as being gins. And the overall effect, of course, is to raise the lower branches so that the structure is more open at the base, bottom, and most of the branches are now at the top. And this is exactly how you find pine trees behaving in nature. Of course, with this lockdown, I can't even get a camera person to come close and photograph in detail what I'm doing. Ideally, that would have been nice if you could see it all, but no matter, we can manage without. I've learned to be bold, even I have to learn to be bold, by cutting out quite a few branches. You know, there's always the fear that because the branches were there originally, should I be removing it? Well, the answer is, yeah, don't be afraid, I have to say to myself, because what was designed 37 years ago is not quite relevant today because the tree has changed. And as I say, a lot of these life lessons you get, you know, the way trees behave, the way situations change, they are all like what we experience in our So because things have changed, we should not be afraid to change it. So this one, I can change it, take it out. So I'm thinning first and then I will wire. So there's a branch there, I can take that branch out. I'm being quite ruthless. I will show you the amount of debris that I've taken out. You can't see it, but if I just show you the amount that we took off yesterday and today, I will show you in a minute. That's the sort of thing I've been taking out. When the whole project is over, I will show you all the debris that has been removed from the tree. And believe you me, it is quite a lot. Parents are always saying, oh, don't do this, don't do that. You'll make a mistake. I now realize that making mistakes, allowing people to make mistakes is probably the best learning tool. So I'm now going to bring the camera near. You remember that I was thinning out the trees on the right-hand side of the picture, and after just about 20-minute work, you can see how thin I've made the tree on the far right compared to the one in the center. You see how dense that one is? That is very, very dense. And you see how light and airy this one is. So it's just going into the structure and thinning it out so that it looks like a proper tree rather than just a blob, Mr. Blobby as we call it. So you see the one on the extreme left has been done last night. This one on the far right I've just done 20 minutes ago, and now I'm going to tackle the one right in the middle, this one. So I just go in there and thin it as I go along. So bear with me as I switch the camera again. So I hope you can get a view. This is what I'm going to tackle. This portion here, this very thick and dense part. So this low branch, I couldn't decide whether to take off or not, but I'll leave it for the time being. So it's this one that we're going to deal with. As I said, there are a lot of dead shoots or very weak shoots over the years. Just the lack of light has meant that you do get quite a bit of dieback. So these are the sort of shoots I'm taking out. It can be a bit daunting if you're not used to doing it, but believe you me, it will be okay. So there's another bit. You see how weak this shoot is. This can come out. And of course, it's not always the weak shoots. I sometimes take out quite a healthy shoot. Like that's a healthy shoot. Take it out because there's too much of it. Right, I'm not going to switch the camera off because I just want to show you that I'm actually working on it. There is no magic, no sleight of hand. It's just tedious work. But of course, I shouldn't give the impression that it's tedious and boring. I'm really enjoying it. I keep saying to myself that it's hard to believe that this was done by the great John Naka and now I'm working on it. And I'm sure he would approve of what I'm doing. And I'm sure he would approve in the same way that I say that there's no right, no wrong way. As long as the end result looks correct or looks good, that's all that matters. So there's another piece. See, these are the sort of pieces I'm removing. I always keep coming back to the front of the group to see what I'm doing in case I'm doing anything wrong. See, another large chunk. See, that's the amount I'm taking out from each branch. And then when I've removed it, I'm going to place it in position so that I got to visualize if I wire it, what will it look like? You know, if I wire it down like that, what would it look like? That's what I'm doing all the time. So these two branches need to be wired down. So let me use some wire. I think that will need like 3.5 millimeter wire because that branch is pretty thick. I'm fairly sure that given another year and with heavy feeding, this tree will resuscitate and rejuvenate. Because light only gets to the top of the tree, you can see why the top is so dense and lush, whereas further down, where it doesn't get light, it is weak. So by thinning it, I hope we will be able to let light into the tree. I'm now just going to show you what I've done to this dense tree. That tree, I have thinned it it might not look as if I've done it, but because there is a very dense tree at the back, you can't see it clearly, but you can see I have thinned this one. This is the tree that I have thinned. This is the one that now needs thinning. This is very dense. This is so dense you can't see anything. And you see the end tree, how I've separated the branches to show the individual branches. I now need to do the same thing with this last remaining tree. This last remaining tree is quite a sturdy tree with a lot of branches and loads of foliage, and look at it, it's covered in juniper berries, So it's obviously a very healthy tree. But I think the entire group looks quite healthy. If I can just walk around with the camera, you can just see the effect of it coming on. Okay, so I'm now going to work on the back of this tree, and I will try and show you what I'm going to do. Maybe if I put the tree, the trouble is, because the view is from this side, whatever I prune has to look good from the front side. This tree hasn't got a front and a back. It has front and a back. I mean, the back is not really the side that you would view. See, this is the back. This is not so interesting. The front is really the other side. So we have to concentrate on making the view look right from the other side. So this is that big tree that I'm going to thin so that it is now, or it now should look in keeping with the character of the rest of the trees. So I will stop the camera and go. So I'm now going to home in on this tree, so you can see how dense this tree is. So it has the first branches there, and then there is a whole cluster of quite thick branches. Really thick branches. Look at that one. That is absolutely thick. And there's more. There's more. So that is how cluttered the tree is. So we've got to thin that out to make it look more presentable. And I dare say one or two branches may have to come out. So let's begin. So let me show you what I'm thinking. Now this is a very thick old branch. And I know it helps to form the triangle. I have to consider very seriously whether that is too heavy a branch. I might just reduce this to a gin. The low branch is not too heavy, but this branch is exceedingly heavy. So what do I do? Hard decision to make. I will probably cut out that bit. I'll show you what I'm cutting. Look at that. I've cut all that out. Massive cut. So the object of the exercise at the moment is to thin the tree out a bit. It is far too dense. I will progressively thin it out so that I'm not making too drastic a decision. As long as there are live shoots at the end, they act as what we call the sap drawers. Sap, S-A-P, and drawer, that means the sap is pulled out through the branch into the foliage at the end. And by pulling the sap through, the rest of the branch becomes healthy and turgid. If you were to remove all the foliage, and this applies to all evergreens, whether they are pines or junipers, that branch will die. So you always need to leave some live foliage at the end to drawing the sap forward. That is what we call the sap drawers. Now there's another branch which is quite low there. I think that can go. I don't need that. I might just make this into a gin, since there are a few gins on this tree. So I've taken out that much. So quite a lot of large chunks are removed. Mind you, these are just small gins. And typical of pines, if you go to the countryside, the next time I go towards Kent, there's some huge pines. There's a place called Leeds Castle, nothing to do with Leeds. Leeds Castle is in Kent, and they have some beautiful old pines, which are literally like the pines you see here. And that is the type of pine image that you get throughout the south of England. I don't know where about Scotland, but certainly in the south of England, the pines grow in this lanky fashion. I keep cutting, wiring, and then going back to see what it looks like. Now, I can see straight away that this branch here, I don't know whether you can see it. I don't know whether I need this one or not. Let me thin it to begin with and see what happens. So just to see the progress, I'm going to home in and show you. You can now see the branch structure quite clearly of this tree, but the top is still dense. So that's what I'm still working on. So you're beginning to be able to see through the tree. As they say, visualizing little birds flying through the branches is what we are aiming for. If it is too dense, then it looks a mess. So you can now see I've thinned all the trees out, so the entire structure is visible. You can see the branches, the little birds can fly through, and this is as much as I can do. If the film editor can compare it with what it was originally, you will get a good idea as to how much work I've done. And because I'm almost at the end, I can't resist cleaning the bark as well. So to recap, when you clean juniper bark, we always use a penknife first to get all the flaky bits off. Some people just use the wire brush straight away, but if you remove the bark with a penknife, then you save quite a bit of the work with the brush, although you can use the brush straight on. Just try it and see what works for you. Now, the brush I use is just an ordinary suede brush. I use this for cleaning suede shoes. So you can use this. And there are, of course, the proper brass brushes which are used for cleaning the bark of trunks. They're very good. But since I can't find that one, I'm just using this one. So this is what I'm going to do the rest of the evening. So I'm just showing you the basic, things I do. Cleaning the bark, again, very boring process. No point just showing you this endlessly. it is what we call elbow grease. The more you polish the tree, the redder the trunk gets. I'm going to show you in a minute what lies underneath the trunk. I can assure you that it is very, very red inside. Unfortunately, because I'm in the office here, I'm not going to use water, but I really should spray it and clean it. So I may take it back out to the nursery tomorrow morning to clean it with water. So if I can just stop the camera and bring the camera near, I will show you just by a minute of brushing, the pink bark is beginning to appear. So let me home in. Can you see that lovely pink color? That is what you get underneath the bark from just brushing it. If you don't brush it, it is just full of algae and grime. So while we're here, let's take a close look at the entire structure of the tree. So I brought this John Naka group into our back greenhouse or our workshop, and we're looking at from the front, and in full daylight. I was videoing in the office, which was under dark conditions with artificial light. It doesn't look quite the same. And I chose a mica pot because this is the only pot that actually fits it. The ceramic pot is going to be too shallow for it. So as you can see again, I grew it in moss to strengthen the roots, and I haven't really looked underneath, but you see the 6 months in the moss, and all these roots have taken, and they've done very well. So I wouldn't touch it at all, and because there's moss, I don't even have to prepare the pot. I'm just going to put it in here for another 3 or 6 months to make sure it recovers fully. There you are. What a good judgment. I knew it would fit this pot. So that's all I need to do. I may just put a tiny little bit of soil on the edges, but apart from that, I don't really have to do anything. So all I'm going to do is to brush the trunks up, and when the trunks are brushed, it should look okay. I like the way it leans slightly to that side. So we just clean the surface and brush the trunks. So here we are. This is the revamped group that the late John Naka made in, I think it was 1984-86. I can't remember the exact year. So let's show you, remind you, when I started this project, I showed you the picture from Bonsai Masterclass. This book, as I said, was written in 1986, published in 1987, and this picture was taken on the nursery at Herons when we had the old greenhouses, and this is the group here. This is the group. If you can home in on that book picture and compare it with this, it is quite different. It is quite different. And I also showed you from my other book, this is, there are two versions of this. This is the French version I told you. I don't know why they changed the title, because this title shouldn't be like that. The original title for the Reader's Digest was Bonsai Secrets. And this, by the way, is the first ever copy of Bonsai Secrets presented to me on the 30th of September 2005. I wrote this book in 2002. So this photograph here, there are two photographs in fact. This one here was before I pruned it. You see how dense it was, exceedingly dense. And these trees on the right were not that tall, you see. These trees have grown a lot since then. Much, much more. It's almost up to the height of that. And so this was before thinning, and I thinned it out there. So that's the picture of it thinned, and that's the original pot. And this tree has taken on a completely different look. So it has transformed itself over the last 30 35 or 36 years, I don't know how many years it is, since this was made. So there you are. I hope you've enjoyed this project. I've really enjoyed making it or redoing it, and it has so much history, and that's what makes this interesting. So have a good look at it.